time I made a My Thoughts on School video, I realized two things. One, there were lots of people who liked it and reached out to me because of it, and two, it was really bad. So now I'm deciding to make a My Thoughts on School Part 2 video. So starting off, I'm going to talk about online school because, well, obvious reasons. I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only person who thinks that the measures taken for coronavirus have gone a bit too far. I mean, I understand the whole online school thing, but in the town I live in, the teachers just posted the work online and then literally nothing else. Well, okay, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. The kids doing the work were given the teacher's phone number and email, as well as a Google Doc explaining everything. But in my opinion, that's the same thing as saying, well, here's all your algebra for the week. Now go do it and leave me alone. Okay, maybe not like that, but you get my point. Also, no offense to any teachers watching, I'm sure you're a wonderful person. Speaking of different types of schools, I'd also like to mention private schools. I did some research and I found out that public schools are free, generally support any kind of intelligence, and is government funded. While a private school, on the other hand, it costs money for tuition, supports more advanced learning curriculums, and is independently funded. It also has smaller classes. And speaking of private schools, shout out to Ron Clark Academy. My mom told me a lot about them, and they sound like they have a pretty good school going, so anyway. Staying on the private school topic, I'd like to talk about school uniforms. A lot of private schools, including Ron Clark, think that uniforms are better because then no one can make fun of each other's clothing, which is actually a nice education technique if you ask me. But they also prevent students from expressing themselves through what they wear. And I mean, some people like school uniforms and others don't, but at the end of the day, wear what you want, as long as it follows the school's dress code. Listen, I'm not saying you should break the rules and risk getting detention, but if your school doesn't require a uniform, then feel free to express yourself through fashion. And if your school does have a uniform, then I'm sorry, but I can't help you. But enough about private schools. Let's talk about public school. Specifically speaking, lockers. Middle school lockers. In the town I live in, the middle school has lockers, but nobody uses them. All of them are zip-tied shut, and nobody's allowed to have access to them. And just like everything else I've talked about, I'm going to list the pros and cons of not having lockers. One of the pros is that you don't have to walk to your locker between each class. But the con is that you have to carry most of your stuff in your backpack. Another pro is, okay, fine. I only have one pro and one con. In second grade, my class used lockers, and something I would do all the time is I would climb into my locker and then ask out loud to everyone else in the hallway, hey, does anyone want to close the door? I don't know why I said that. I guess I just like being in small spaces, kind of like I had the opposite of claustrophobia. Going off on a bit of a tangent, though, for some reason I've always liked being in small enclosed spaces. It was just something about them that made me feel safe. My teacher found out what I was doing, and I lost the privilege to my locker for a while. But with that being said, my second grade teacher was an amazing teacher. I'll just make up a fake name for her. I'll just call her Mrs. Doc. So, Mrs. Doc, if you're watching this, I just want to tell you that you're one of the best teachers I've ever had. It's pretty amazing how teachers who teach pre-K through second grade can sit in a room with a bunch of energetic children and teach all of the subjects. I've had a lot of great teachers throughout my school years. Not all of them were perfect, but I think that they each had their own way of teaching. Recess! Everybody knows that one time slot that elementary school kids get when they can just go outside and have fun on a playground. And when I was in 5th grade, whenever it was time for recess, everybody would get in a single file line and we would walk out to the playground. But the second the teacher gave us permission to go play, almost everybody would dart to the swing sets to try and get a spot on it. So if you wanted a precious VIP seat on the playground, that meant you had to be 1, in the front of the line, and 2, fast. And if you weren't those two things, you would have no chance of getting a seat. Another thing about 5th grade recess that I would like to talk about is the little soccer team that I was on. Some days, if I had nobody to play with, I would go over to the soccer kids and ask if I could play with them. Most of the time, though, they said yes. And I always played the same position every time. Goalie. I kind of liked being that position, though. You don't have to do too much, but when you do block a shot for your team, everyone on it starts wooing and cheering for you. It doesn't matter that I only blocked half the shots in my own career. It doesn't matter what you guys say, because I am a star at soccer. Kinda. I hope you guys liked listening to me talk about school for a few minutes. Speaking of which, I'm actually a school student, believe it or not. So when it comes to posting, I might be a little late with everything going on right now. But it's fine. Anyway, I'm just going to say to brush your teeth before every school day because nobody wants to smell bad breath.